What is next for the Miami Heat? The news we've been waiting for, it finally happened yesterday as the Mavericks bought out Klay Thompson, and Shams Charania reported that he intends to sign a deal with the Miami Heat. Perfect addition for this roster. But there is still one more roster spot available that the Heat need to fill before training camp begins in late September. We'll talk about it on today's show presented by Prize Picks. First, I want to give a quick update. We put it on my Twitter, which is why you got to go follow me at Nick_Roloff. But Shams went on to report that Thompson intends to sign a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Heat with a player option after year one. So he's going to be under contract for $6.4 million this season and potentially $6.6 million next season. So the Heat now have, hypothetically, 9 players under contract for the 2027-28 season. Giannis Antetokounmpo is expected to sign an extension when he's eligible in January, but you've got a couple player options, and Bobby Portis and Klay Thompson now. You have Dru Smith on a team option. Myron Gardner is on a non-guaranteed contract. So you could have 9 people already under contract going into the offseason next year, or you could hypothetically have only about 5 if Klay and Bobby opt out and you move on from Gardner and Dru Smith. Now, I like the 1+1 deal for the Heat. Obviously, we want Klay here, but him having a potential second year attached is really good for the Heat. If Klay Thompson likes what is happening, you have a successful year, well, maybe he opts out and you sign him to a little bit of a bigger extension. If he has a mediocre or average year, well, then he's here for $6 million next season. And even if he is exactly what he was last season in Dallas, which would be a below average season for his standards, for that to be only $6 million, I think it's pretty good for the Miami Heat. I also want to welcome Klay Thompson to Miami. Hit that thumbs up icon if you're excited for the 4-time champion, top 10 shooter in NBA history to be on this Heat roster. And speaking of the Heat roster, this is where things stand right now. I am penciling Klay Thompson into this Heat starting lineup. I think he is the perfect fit. He's a shooter. He's a bit of a better defender than Tim Hardaway Jr. And Tim is more comfortable off of the bench. That's where he thrived last year in Denver. So you now have 13 players on a standard contract, which means there is one more spot you need to fill because there is a minimum of 14 players. This is an absolute elite offseason for the Heat to acquire Giannis, Klay Thompson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Bobby Portis, while only losing Hero, Ware, Jaquez, Yakachonis. Norman Powell, sure, but talk about a fantastic offseason for the Miami Heat. I noted the Heat have to sign a 14th player soon. Well, here's why. Ira Winderman noted that if the Heat want to sign Exhibit 10 contract players for training camp, which they do, remember, you can have up to 15 standard contracts and then up to 21 people for the preseason and training camp. 3 two-ways potentially and a lot of Exhibit 10s. But if you don't have 3 two-ways, like the Heat only have 2 two-ways. So you can have 14 standard guys, 2 two-ways, and then 5 Exhibit 10s. But if you want to sign guys to training camp deals, you need to have the 14 standard contract number. So there should be a signing relatively soon. I would imagine at least in the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe closer to training camp. But if the Heat want to start locking in these young guys like Trey White or Javon Hadley or Ian Shefflin to Exhibit 10 deals, they're going to need to add someone soon. And Barry Jackson reported what we all thought, but it's good to see the confirmation that Miami prefers a big man with that 14th roster spot. We have talked about the Heat potentially adding Nick Richards. He is, without a question, the top big man available. But there's other guys like Drew Eubanks, Kelly Olynyk, Duop Reath, James Wiseman, who's been working out in Miami, was in the Heat's facility with Richards, working out just last week. Obviously, Nick Richards is the top guy, the player that we've talked about the most, a player that's been linked to the Heat out on social media. The Heat are going to wait, though. And I don't know how long they're going to wait. I think they need to move on Nick Richards sooner rather than later. But they might wait at least this week with the waive and stretch deadline this upcoming Saturday, August 29th. The Heat are going to see who might become available, but if not, they'll turn their attention to Nick Richards, where there are and is mutual interest. More on that in a moment. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code HMA. Play $5, win $5 lineup, and you get $150 in bonus lineups. The basketball season is approaching. You can do a season-long projection. You can do daily. There's baseball, golf, preseason football. I'm following my guy, Patrick Seatman, over at Vikings Now, who had more on Adam Randall rushing yards, more on J.J. McCarthy passing yards, and less on Miles Price receiving yards in that Ravens and Vikings preseason game. We're following Seeps today, so hopefully we win. You can see other people's lineups on the social feeds feature. You can see my lineups. If you follow me, my username is RollyCS. Go start with Prize Picks today. Like I said, download the app, use code HMA, win your first $5 lineup. You get $150 in bonus lineups. That link to download the app is in the description and comments of today's video. As much as there's been smoke around Miami liking Nick Richards and Nick Richards wanting to join the Heat, it's not like that's the only suitor for the free agent big man. There is competition. And specifically, you see here what Barry Jackson said, that there is definite interest from Miami's end in Richards, but there are a couple other of players in the mix. Richards must decide what he wants to do with Heat among multiple teams interested. Now, there is rumors out there that another team that's interested is the New York Knicks, the defending Eastern Conference champions. Would Richards rather join them, or would he rather join Miami? I think there is a larger role for Richards with the Heat because he would be that primary backup center rather than in New York. I think he would be the third guy there after they've made some additions this offseason. They signed Andre Drummond, if I'm not mistaken, so he would be the no doubt third center in New York. He would be either 2B or maybe 3A if you count Bobby Portis / Jovic as a small ball backup 5. We've talked about Richards, his ability to rebound at a really high level. He's a subpar shot blocker, but he's a good finisher around the rim. The match makes too much sense. So I am pining for the Heat to please go out there and add Nick Richards. So what say you? Should Miami add him? I think a lot of people will say yes, but I want to get your thoughts down in the comment section, so let me know. And from Miami's perspective, you can do a non-guaranteed deal. Like, you can sign him to a non-guaranteed contract right now. So if you would rather have a young guy that shines in training camp on a standard deal, like a Trey Donaldson or someone else that flashes, well, then you can. Like, you don't need to sign him to a standard guaranteed contract. You could give him a vet min non-guaranteed deal like you did with Precious Achiuwa a year ago, and then you could sign those Exhibit 10 guys. Now, I think it's worth just giving them a guaranteed deal, but if Miami's skeptical of that, you could do a non-guaranteed deal, guarantee it before the season begins in October, or do what you did with Precious last year and waive him and sign someone else. That obviously was a mistake, too, because Achiuwa had a fantastic year in Sacramento. Other news here. Could a familiar friend return? How about Keshad Johnson, a player that we've talked about over the last week? Barry Jackson said there has been talks about bringing back Keshad. Now, I'll make this abundantly clear. I am cool with Keshad being back in Miami, but it has to be on a two-way deal. Keshad Johnson is not a standard player in the NBA. Can he give you spot minutes? Sure. He had a couple strong games last season where he played 10 minutes off the bench, rebounded, defended. You know, you can get out in transition and make things happen. But we've also seen enough over his first 2 years in the league to know, hey, this guy is not a dude you can trust to get consistent minutes in an NBA rotation. Which is why, on a two-way deal, I'm in. Anything else, I'm out. The Heat have an open two-way spot available right now. They only have two. You're allowed three. Is Kashad Johnson worth being that third dude? I would say yes. But if you want a developmental guy in that third spot, I would be cool replacing Thad Golden with Kashad because I think Golden stinks. And I would rather have Kashad Johnson in that spot. So I'm cool bringing back Kashad, but it has to be on a two-way deal. We broke down the Klay Thompson news yesterday on the channel. We have daily content here at the Heat Report, so make sure you subscribe, join the channel. Anything happens, we got you covered. Amongst the busy day around the Heat yesterday, there was an addition to the coaching staff. Chris Haynes was the first on it. An assistant in Milwaukee who has been with the Bucks for the last 8 seasons, Vin Baker, is joining the Heat's coaching staff. He will reunite with Giannis, who he has a close relationship with over the last 8 years in Milwaukee. I love this. I do. I have no clue if Vin Baker's a good coach or not. How would I know that? But what I do know is if Chris Haynes is reporting Giannis has a good, strong relationship with him, that will be beneficial to the Heat. He is the guy you put all your chips to the middle for. Giannis Antetokounmpo will take Miami to the place they want to be, hopefully. But if he wants to do that, and you want to get the most out of Giannis, you need to make sure he's in a good headspace and he's happy. So if Vin Baker helps do that, even just by improving his happiness by 1%, this is a good move for the Miami Heat. And in other news, it doesn't sound like anyone's leaving. It's not like Vin Baker's replacing anybody, at least according to Anthony Che, who said Vin Baker's being added, but no assistant coach is departing. So it's just an addition to make Giannis Antetokounmpo a bit more comfortable and happy within a new organization, which is what I think is a smart move for the Heat. That's going to do it for today's show. We broke all of this down on Twitter before making this YouTube video, which is why, as I always say, you need to follow me over there as well as being subscribed. So go follow me at Nick_Roloff.